Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Param Vishwaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satguru Pranatosh Maham Om Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Welcome everyone to our meeting on Q&A, and then the big picture of Swami Paramarthananda, howsoever we wish to move. So do we have any questions to begin with? Okay. Okay, can we go into the text? Last week we saw we touched the sixfold discipline. So we are working through the qualifications, yeah, the 4 Ds: the desire, the discrimination, the dispassion, the disciplines, and the desire for moksha, the intense desire. So these 4 Ds, and after having looked briefly through each one of them, we got into the paragraph on the sixfold discipline. So this is interesting. I mean, we understand more easily what it is, the qualification of discrimination. We know that we all have discrimination. We discriminate on a moment-to-moment basis. Our intellect does nothing but discriminating. So the mind presents the thought's object, and the intellect is going to determine what to do from there on. Yeah? And so this is a common faculty experienced by all human beings, the discrimination, but unfortunately, we have been used to now, programmed to, or by culture to discriminate among what I like the most, what I like more or less, what I dislike, and so on. So usually we cruise through the field of objects of experience, trying to say, geez, I want that, I don't want. Geez, I want that, I don't want. Huh? And we have a lot of stories to support our determination, our discrimination about what I want and what I do not want. And then we look through dispassion. Dispassion is also something that is fundamental, and I often say it's the other side of discrimination, because dispassion is going to support discrimination, because we will go and we will let go of discrimination between my likes and dislikes, and we're gonna move into the discrimination between what is dharma and what is adharma. Yeah? What is dharmic, what is fair, what is just, what is in harmony with the laws governing this universe, and so on. So want to move from a discrimination based on my likes and dislikes to a discrimination based on the values, on dharmic and adharmic values. We need to understand this meteor place. We need to understand what Ishvara is, what Maya is, what Ishvara is, what the Jiva, and what the field with all these attractive objects are. So we need to understand that these objects that shine as gold in most of the case, it's just the very source of suffering, as we often see in our Vedantic statements, radical statements, that it's the very source of suffering, desires. Not that the objects are bad by itself, but to believe that the objects were designed to resolve my mind, and so that I can establish my fullness, completion, and peace. It is a delusion, because we go from one object to another, and the mind is always hungry for more and never really satisfied. So we need to understand that the objects are not the real source of joy. Joy does not reside in the objects of a desire. So, and that takes the teachings relate to the fact that the happiness we are looking for is not in the object. And then once we look through those teachings and we understand the facts, the limitation of all objects of desires, and then we develop a positive disinterest in objects as a means to complete myself, resolve myself. Okay, we no longer, it's not that we are going to be totally against objects. We don't believe it will solve my problem anymore. They have utilitarian values. This is a very nice collocation. They have utilitarian values, but they don't resolve our mind. Okay, because no matter how much security, how many assets, how much money in the bank, and this and that, all of that can go upside down. And the more I have, I may feel even more and more insecure, because there is no really a clear line that says, now you are really secure, put all your assets on the real estate because the markets are shaking, and then you put in the real estate and you never know. I lost a lot of money in 2008 when the crash of the markets happened, you understand? So, and I was believing that I was safe and secure because it's a hard asset. So we never know. So understanding that is going to allow us to develop this passion. And the more grounded our this passion is, the more it supports what? It's going to support my discrimination, because now I know that it's not in the object. And now I need to use my discrimination no longer for chasing what I want and push away what I do not want, but it's going to open up space for my faculty of discrimination to discriminate what? Between Dharma and the Dharma. Why I like to put it in that perspective? Because unless we understand Dharma, unless we begin living from the standpoint of Dharma, almost invariably, we don't have the subtle qualification, discriminative qualification to discriminate the self from the not self, free limitless consciousness from the intellect. So this refinement of our discrimination, it goes through Dharma, which depends on the understanding of karma, karma yoga, dharma yoga, karma. The laws governing our human experience have to be understood. We need to bring Ishvara into our equation of life. And then we stop discriminate between what I like and what I don't like. And we begin discriminating about what is the best dharmic response here. Okay. So it is an intermediary exercise of discrimination. So for those of us highly qualified, we can say, oh no, I don't care for Dharma and the Dharma. I'm going to discriminate the self from the not self, consciousness from the intellect, and then go ahead and do it. But unless someone lives a totally harmonized life, aligned with these Dharma rules, the Dharma laws. So if one is still having a lot of conflicts and acting out in a way that is not dharmic, so forget about discriminating the consciousness, free, limitless consciousness from the intellect, because the mind is there still, doing actions, presenting response to stimuli that are causing conflict, because if you respond according to our likes and dislikes, we're going to running several negative emotions, because we can't really control the field so that we get what we want, and we avoid everything we do not want. So having said that, we understand that this passion and discrimination, they are interconnected. In fact, the four qualifications, the 4 Ds, they are all interconnected. So the third one is the one said to be the sixfold discipline. So discipline is something that we understand. Those of us with a rebel spirit would say, no, I don't want to be disciplined by anything or anyone because I am a free spirit, okay? So when we come to Vedanta, we need to be mature individuals. So that overreaction is an overreaction that needs to be overcome. Usually it's still connected to our relationships with dad and mommy and so on. And then we do not want to be told, you have to be disciplined, my son. No, I just do what I feel. Yeah? So we need to come to Vedanta, and then we need to understand that we need to be disciplined. We cannot live our life from our feeling level, but we have to live our life from our ultimate goal. And then our life has to be organized in a way, disciplined in a way that it's going to support my final goal. You understand? So its discipline is very important. It's a word that not everybody likes. And the sixfold discipline presented by Vedanta is the control of the mind, control of the senses, the focus, the ability to withdraw from sense organs, faith, and forbearance, the ability to receive adversities without kicking and screaming, without being upset with God, upset with life, and so on. So the control of the mind is to regulate and direct our mental energy. This is done to avoid wasting of precious mental and physical energy. It is likened to damming a river and channeling the water so it can be usefully utilized. This is one of those little pieces of analogies presented by Swami Paramarthananda. So a dam. Yeah? So we hold the water, although it can cause some other problems as well, but if we can do it intelligently, we can hold the water. Why? Because water, not salt water. Water is the most fundamental, important resource for life to grow. And then when we see that huge amount of water being discharged again and again into the sea, and then once it is salt water, it's no longer a source for growing food and so on. So we need to hold that water, dam the water, and then distribute the water, and that way we develop cities and communities, societies, and so on. So the mind is the same thing. We have this mental energy, and if we let it flow according to our likes and dislikes through the sense organs, we are never going to be able to make full usage of this mental, discriminating, intellectual energy. So if it's leaking directly into samsara through the sense organ, these 5 rivers, if it's just going, we are never really holding enough mental, intellectual energy to use it for some higher purpose. Okay, so without control of the water, there may be floods in some areas and droughts in others, says Swami Paramarthananda. The human mind is much the same. Controlling the mind does not mean suppression. This is very important, this subtle distinction, because what is suppression of the mind? Suppression of the mind is the attempt to control the mind while without bringing jnana, understanding of the mechanics that extrovert the mind and make the mind run after objects of desires. So we need to bring the knowledge, the understanding of these video phenomena. So once we develop this picture, this Vedanta picture, and then we don't need to suppress the mind. Suppression usually it's like a volcano, you just suppress, and then it bursts, and then it's not much fun. So we need to be smart about controlling the mind. That's why I like the expression suggested often by Swami Paramarthananda. He used this word instead of controlling the mind as regulating the mind. Okay, the mind has to flow, but we need to contain and adjust it and regulate it. Okay, so that we can hold enough energy so that we can use it for some higher purpose in life. Learning to consciously regulate and channel and direct our mind to avoid anxiety, stress, frustration, and depression. So frustration, anger, irritation, and depression is due to the fact that if we let the mind flow to the objects of desires and fears, unavoidably we're going to experience anxiety, stress, irritation, anger, frustration, depression, among many other negative feelings that are going to disturb the mind and make us suffer pain, psychological pain. So we need to learn to regulate the mind and then channel it. Wherever we need to get things done, we just, okay, no, I have to do this work today. I have to do that. I'm doing this translation. I'm going to put some time today. We just do like that. Okay, we get things done, and then we hold our mind, and some of our mind we put into our spiritual work. We bring it to the scriptures, and we do our nididhyasana, our manana, okay, our studies, and so on. We need to be able to control the mind. Otherwise, the mind is going to do things, totally operate by avidya. We are not our mind, but the driver of our mind. How beautiful, those small, simple insights of Swami Paramarthananda. We are not our mind, but we are the one controlling the mind. We are just, we are over the chariot, controlling the five senses and the mind so that I move them where I wish them to go. Because I'm no longer slave of my five sense organs that move by the force of desires and fears, by the momentum of desire. We are not our mind, but we are the driver of our mind. And we have the ability to steer it down particular roads as we would with a car. We have a certain power to direct our car. We have a certain power to direct our mind. We don't usually know where to direct our mind to, but that is not the case once we come to Vedanta, to the Upanishads, to all these teachings. Right, Karen? Are you with me?
I am with you.
Good.
Yeah, no, I like the driver, like driving a car.
Yeah.
No, not this way, that way.
Not that way. Wonderful. And then we move into the control of the senses. It's up to us to decide what we wish to experience via our sense. What is the mind, by the way? So the mind is the one, the aspect.
Sorry, Arlindo. Sorry, can I have a little question?
Yes, please.
Because here it says that we are not our mind, we are the driver of our mind. And but consciousness is a karta, it doesn't act. So
it doesn't drive. Yeah.
It doesn't drive. Okay, so we can say that it is a way. It's true because we have a little part of free will to drive the car.
Yeah.
But we have to do a distinction here, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. This is a good point, and Vedanta sometimes may seem to be confusing and contradictory. Why? Because sometimes it refers to the intellect, because the intellect is our discriminating power. And sometimes it refers to our true nature as consciousness, the akarta, the one. Okay. So now it is control of the self, of the sense. The self does not have any sense organs. Okay. Who has the sense organs is the intellect, the body-mind complex has these instruments, and they have to be regulated and controlled without oppression, okay? So that we can develop those mental qualifications. The self does not have qualifications because it does not have a mind and so on. So it's all about the Jiva Atma as a body-mind complex in its way to prepare development of these 4Ds, these 4 levels of qualification, okay? But it's a good point.
Thank you. See, only to have more clear all the picture.
Well, the key of Vedanta, because it's altogether, it's simple Vedanta, very simple. Once we no longer make a confusion between Satya and Mithya, you understand? And then you understand that Satya and Mithya, they are not obstacling one another. They are 2 orders of reality, okay? And they don't, they don't crash. So what is Mithya, remains in Mithya, and what is Satya, our true nature, remains in Satya. The only thing is that Satya is the substratum of Mithya, and Mithya is just a projection, superimposition, but they appear to be together without any conflict. Why? Because they are 2 distinct orders of reality, and they don't crash. One is a byproduct of Maya, which is energy/matter, and the other is just consciousness, existence itself. Understand? There's no contradiction. It's up to us to decide what we wish to experience via our senses. Again, this enables us to channel our energy wisely, avoiding wastage and unnecessary stress. So the same way that the mind needs to be controlled. What is the mind, by the way? I was going to touch that. What is the mind? The mind is that aspect of our human experience that integrates integrates every experience through the 5 senses in one single experience. We have five channels to contact the world of object of experience. That has to be integrated in one single experience. Right? And then the mind is this aspect that integrates thought and the contact of itself with the objects, which are not separate from the thought about the object. Now, this is another teaching. We are not going to go there. So we have an object that may come as a thought from my causal body, or it comes from the field as a physical material object. And then once I'm in contact with an object, the thought of object is attached to it. Okay, and this is all done by the mind, integrating the 5 channels of sense perception. Okay, integrating it, and immediately define the mind is going to do what? It's going to question and submit. If the mind is geometrically designed, in a positive manner, it's going to provide the question, the doubt, the doubting aspect of the mind is going to submit to the intellect, and the intellect is going to say, okay, yes, okay, now don't do like this, do like that. And then we take our shot, we make a decision, knowing that there is room for mistakes. I mean, there are no mistakes. Life is a learning process. No? So what is the mind here? So the same way we're going to control the mind by understanding, the thoughts appearing in our mind, the desires and fears, and the way the mind works. But in order to control the mind, we better have the sense controlled. So the control of the sense it comes in a easier manner than the control of thoughts. You understand? Controlling the mind, once it has integrated the sense experience in one single experience, and the thought is there, and then it's going to submit to the intellect, And before that, if we have our sense perceptions and our organs of reception or perception and our organs of actions, we should have them under control because they are denser than the thought level or thought aspect of the mind. You see, in that triangle, we have the sense organs. They are sandwiched between the physical body and the subtle body. So the sense organs are denser. Everything that is denser is more easily objectified and controlled or regulated. So we know it's easier to stop our hand going to the fridge, but it's a little bit more difficult to stop the thought of the cake in the fridge. You understand? Why? Because my hand in the fridge is a little denser, but the thought of the cake in the fridge is a little subtler. It's just a thought. Huh? So we need to understand that the same way we need to regulate and discipline our sense organs. It's again enables, likewise, enables us to channel our energy wisely, avoiding wastage and unnecessary trouble. Gandhi advised that we watch the three monkeys and see, which is watch the three monkeys. The monkeys is the aspect of our sense organs that see, hear, and speak. The speak is an aspect of the doer, and see and hear is the aspect of the receiver, the Bhokta and Karta. So the Karta is the one who is going to present a speech. But here he presents these three aspects. We have 10 sense organs, we have 5 sense of reception and 5 sense of action, instruments of action. So out of these 10, Gandhi picked up on these 3, which is our ability to see, which is a sense organ, our ability to hear, and then another ability, another instrument, which is instrument of action, which is not on the receiving side of the Jivatma, but it is on the responding side of the Jivatma, which is the speech. So we need to be moderate and control this compulsiveness in wanting to contact the objects again and again using our eyes, our ears, and then control as well this compulsivity about speaking, having to say things, having opinions about any and everything. People who have opinions, they talk all the time. So sometimes I meet people. I have some friends, very little friends, but I met one the other day, and someone who is leaving, and she was opening up a little bit. I tried to convey a few things to her because she's going to start a new life somewhere else. But I mean, she was talking all the time. Who does not know people like that? They just talk. Me. And then we need to control those 3 monkeys. And see, hear, and speak only what is proper in a given situation. So this speak thing is big because it should be used for the sake of communication, not for the sake of. There is a nice expression I learned in the USA during my 15 years there, that somebody once told me, "Oh, come on, don't spit on my ear." Spit on an ear is someone who is just talking compulsively and dumping my ears with gibberish. So speech should be used properly as a means for communication. We want to communicate, and then we speech. If we don't need to communicate one another, we don't need to speak. But some people, they need to speak, otherwise they explode. Huh? And then they need someone to talk to. So, and we have to be careful with that, because I mean, it's a waste of on our side to hear to people who want to throw up or vomiting their stuff on our ears. Understand? We need to protect ourselves. There are hundreds of television channels available these days, so it's wise to have a clear idea of what we want to watch. Similarly, it's for this reason that control of the sense Dhamma is a valuable qualification. Yeah. So nowadays, not only television, I mean, now we have all kinds of screens. Computer became another source of mass destruction, as Sundari once said, they are weapons of mass destruction. So our cell telephones and computer screens or television screen, everything is bombarding us with stupid things most of the time. I have to be very selective to really find some source of communication that is wise, which is quality knowledge. The rest, 90% is just garbage. Control the mind, control of the sense, and then withdraw from sense object. The ability to withdraw from sense objects, Parama, is to avoid being too much an extrovert. Yeah. So the objects are there, but if I am too extrovert, and then I will be hooked to all these different sense objects all the time. Extroversion is a huge obstacle because extroverts, being constantly busy and distracted, will never find time for the highest pursuit of life. Why? Because I'm a rajasic person by nature. I'm extroverted, and I all the time I am on the go, doing for many times for no reason at all. It's just a habit of doing unnecessary things. Life requires certain doings. A lot of our doings is unnecessary doings, which hurts us because it creates this inability to develop a contemplative mind. Now we are all the time connect with the world through our five sense organs of perception and our organs of action. We are distracted. We'll never find any time for Vedanta. The extrovert mind will be so focused on the pursuit of wealth and pleasure and security that the desire for knowledge, let's say, will never really come, let alone the desire for moksha and self-knowledge. The people who are really rajasic, they don't get to that. I met a guy recently that he's helping me with certain things, but he liked Vedanta, but he's so rajasic that he doesn't have time. His life is busy, 50, 60 hours a week of work. And so I don't say anything. He's helping me with certain things, and he's going about his life. And sometimes he shows up in the classes in Portuguese language, and he takes some benefit. Okay, so you cannot tell them, hey, you better change your lifestyle. No, he may not be ready to hear that. I have to give time. So we cannot keep our huge list of hundreds of desires and just add the desire for self-knowledge down there somewhere in the middle of the list and expect that it's going to bring about the transformation that we wish for. Therefore, an extrovert person may enjoy life, but he will never grow in life. How beautiful. That's why I love the teachings of Paramarthananda. It's so simple, but here and there they have its little, small pearls, You see, the extrovert, rajasic, materialistic person may enjoy life. It may enjoy, yes, because his focus is to enjoy. It's going to enjoy some objects here and there. It's not the spiritual joy, but it may enjoy life, but he will never grow in life. He will never grow to experience real joy, real peace, real ananda. Very nice. True success comes from, not from enjoyment, but from growth. Again, different words pointing to the same thing. The true success, the true peace and happiness and joy comes not from enjoying the objects of desires. You understand? We know that objects of desires may taste sweet at the beginning, but then they turn bitter very soon. And then we lose taste for them. So the true success comes not from enjoying objects of desires, but from growing spiritually, developing a mind which is qualified to extract this nectar called ananda from its own nature as consciousness, a mental condition that is no longer extrovert all over the place trying to extract some of the facts, limit ananda, but it's a mind that is introvert enough, contemplative enough, that it can grow and learn where and how I can really enjoy the nectar of peace and ananda, which is derived from the knowledge in regards to my real nature. Okay? But before that, we need to succeed so many times in the world to understand that success is the greatest failure. Have you ever heard me saying that before? Success is the greatest failure. But until we come to that level of maturity, we'll keep jumping from one pursuit of success into another. A certain degree of withdrawal is needed for this. This for self-knowledge. This doesn't have to be an absolute withdrawal. If the average person abandons his or her life and run off to a cave in the Himalayas or in Tiruvannamalai, the solitude would probably drive the person insane. So that's why Swami Dayananda, Swami Paramarthananda emphasize often, be very careful with wanting to run away from your life, because chances are that your mind is not fit for contemplation. Don't go to the ashram and try to take a vow of sannyasi, because it's a one-way street. You cannot come back again. It may become a hell to the individual. And don't walk away from everything and look for a cave in the Himalayas, because most probably you are not going to have a good time there, and your mind is going to be disturbed, remembering the comfort of your very home and family and so on. The solitude would probably drive this person insane. Therefore, for most of us, it is sufficient that withdrawal simply allows us time to pursue Vedanta, self-knowledge. We need to withdraw. We have a certain amount of energy at our disposal. We need to regulate our energies, like with the dam and the river and so on, so that I still channel my energies so that I can navigate, function, and survive in the world. But I need to make room, and we need to put into a saving account a certain amount of energy so that I can, allow myself the pursuit of upasana, yana yoga, eh, and while living with the karma yoga attitude. Mm. So, in other words, we need to hold some energy at our disposal and then channel that to understand karma, dharma, yoga. Mm. And then we are somehow conformed or harmonized with the laws, these karmic, ethics, psychological laws, and then our mind is much more stable and qualified. We have yoga, karma, dharma, yoga, and then we're going to develop certain disciplines by approaching upasana yoga, meditation, or howsoever we want to call hatha yoga. So, and then by doing that, I'm further developing the mind, and then I can go into Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, which is the three final steps with Vedanta. And all of that has to be done while living with the Karma Yoga attitude. No, I want to skip Karma Dharma. I want to just do some meditation, and then I want to go into Jnana Yoga. So what's the difficult there? Is if I did not do my Karma Yoga, unless I have done lots of it in the previous birth, I mean, to jump into Upasana and Jnana Yoga may not work. Why? Because my mind is still under the pressure of my likes and dislikes. How can a mind which is, still suffering those strong attacks of desires and fears be able to do Upasana Yoga and Jnana Yoga? It's difficult. The mind is disturbed with desires and fears. So Karma Yoga is the base. It's going to take care. It's the most natural purifier of the mind. This withdrawal, which is a partial withdrawal from the objects of the world, is not only physical. It's not about, okay, so I'm going to be detached from the objects around me. I'm going to use a blindfolder, so that I don't see anything. And I have a good maid. The maid can do things to myself in the house, and that way I'm not allowing my eyes, my sight, to get in contact with the physical world. It sounds like a good idea, Claudio, you being a meditation teacher. Huh? So, yes, we took care of the problem here. We have avoided the object, the physical material object. My eyes would catch them. huh? And then that aspect is resolved. But then here, Swami Paramarthananda say it's not merely physical, but it's also mental and psychological withdrawal. Oh, how nice, huh? It's you have to be able to withdraw from the identification slash attachment to the thoughts, objects as they pop up into our mental process. So how I'm going to withdraw from them, as Swami Shimayananda says, you cannot withdraw from any of these unless you have a place to connect. You understand? You have to disconnect when you need to connect. So we need to disconnect and connect our mind to the scriptural knowledge as presented by Vedanta. Yeah? It's also the withdrawal from our mental and psychological aspects, nature. When we sit to listen to Vedanta, we are expect to be completely focused upon that, completely letting go of all concerns and issues regarding family, work, responsibilities, and worries and future plans. We should not sit listening to Vedanta while mentally compiling a shopping list of what to do after the class. That's a good one, huh? So that's why it's important for the teacher to see the students to see who is doing the list and who is not doing that shopping list, the to-do list and so on. You can see that the mind of the person is focused. That's why Shankara stressed the importance of the ability to withdraw and the ability to focus on one-pointedness of the mind, because we need that to do our shravana. We need that in order to do our manana and so on. As we can see, control of the senses is easier on the physical level. You can just say, no, I don't want to pay attention to anything. And even if I see, I don't pay any attention, But then the other problem, which is a little bit more subtle, is to regulate and control the thoughts as they pop up in our conscious mind. They keep popping up, and they keep saying, hey, I'm here, I need attention. You say, no, thank you, no, thank you. It's a little bit more subtle. Huh? So another disciplinary aspect of the mind is forbearance. Forbearance, or in Sanskrit, titiksha, means the ability to cope with life as its stress and strains without being unduly affected by them. What is unduly? What is that?
I think it means giving more attention to them than they deserve.
Okay. So, yeah, without being vigilantly affected by them would be something like that, huh? Yeah. So as we know, forbearance is the ability to take the so-called papakama, or adversities, or what we don't like. We take those things with balance, with strength, mental, emotional strength, with elegance, as sometimes I like to say. So we need a strong mind on the receiving side of our human personality as the bhakta, the one that receives it. This forbearance is a qualification that relates to the receiving side of our human personality. We need to be strong to receive what the field presents us, even if it is tough, difficult. You understand? Of course, we need to be strong as well in the moment that we exercise our karta side, which is the one who presents a response to the stimulus coming from the field. So forbearance refers to the receiving side of our personality. We need to be strong so that we can take it without kicking and screaming and losing our discrimination and so on. The austerities prescribed by the scriptures, such as fasting and pilgrimage and to remote places, are designed to strengthen our resolve and make us better able to cope with the stress of life. This increases our dispassion and helps to create a meditation-ready mind. So we are looking to these different qualifications that are preparing the mind for deep meditation. Now we are controlling the sense, we are controlling our hookup with the objects and so on. And then we are strong about what Ishvara sends always. And then all of that it will help us to increase our this passion, this positive indifference, not only in regards to the objects out there, but in regards to what Ishvara presents us as our life's situation, life circumstance. Yeah? If it is a crisis, so you take it, and how you're going to take it elegantly, understanding that this is an intelligent order, properly structured, and everything is beautifully designed as a possibility, no, for us to learn something and grow, even if it's tough. Faith, this faith rather refers to the faith in both the teaching and the teacher. This is part of the reason India has such a devotional culture. Faith is something that is cultivated by worship. Children are brought up to worship God, the scriptures, and the great sages and teachers. Growing up with this reverential attribute builds a degree of faith so that when the child grows up, they automatically have trust in the teacher and in the teaching, the Vedantic teaching. So it's something that this trust has to be present in our culture. As we know, in the West, we don't have that kind of culture. The Western culture is much more materialistic, and they have forgotten about God. You know, most people in Europe, at least in the United States, still is a Christian Catholic country, yeah? And Brazil as well. But in Europe, if you go to Europe, I mean, this thing about God and all, in Spain is a little bit still Catholic, huh? But especially in the not so. Yeah, but not going there. What we want to say is that in the Vedic culture, people they learn by culture to trust the teachers and the teachings and the scriptures and the Vedic system and so on. And this is very important. When we don't have it, which is the case with us Western, and then we need to develop this trust the hard way. I mean, the hard way is now I was programmed to distrust because I come from a materialist place in which if you trust too openly, you may be misled and abused. So therefore, I was programmed to be very cautious about offering my trust. So we're going to have to develop this faith by logic, by understanding, and by putting these teachings to the test. When we put it to the test, and then slowly we see for ourselves that it works. And then as I see that it works, and then this is no longer a culture faith, a culture based or birth trust, but it is my own trust, my subjective trust, because I have heard, I have studied, I have contemplated, I have put to the test, and now I can trust it because I have understood that it works. So that's the only way we can really develop this trust, because as we know, it's not about a blind trust. These days, many grow up without faith in such a things. A degree of faith must therefore be cultivated. This faith is necessary to give us the determination to stick with the teaching until it begins to bear fruit. I mean, in the Western, I have been doing this since a while now, and I can see, especially in Brazil, I have quite some experience. And the trust, it has to come only if people begin to digesting and testing these teachings, you know. Otherwise, it is a child's trust. And a child's trust is someone, oh, please, I'm suffering. Come and save me. Do something for me, you know. And then, I mean, like these people running to all these sanghas in which the guru is there making unrealistic promise, you know, offering some shakti and so on. So no, this trust should be a mature trust, and it can only really come from putting it to the test and seeing that it works. Here is Paramarthananda says, in other words, we agree to listen to the teacher and to examine the truth of the scriptural knowledge for ourselves. But before we do that, we need maturity. We have tried many other ways, and we saw that it still did not work. But without that initial trust and willingness to trust, we would not stick with the teachings long enough for it to lead us to our self-knowledge and moksha. So we need an initial trust, you know, and then the initial trust is spending the result of your own studies and examination and investigation. And then once you see for yourself, and then it's up to you to make this trust grow. But it's going to grow only to the extent that we apply this knowledge and we are dedicated about doing so. Concentration, samadhana, relates to both short-term and long-term focusing. So we have to concentrate on our short-term goal and concentrate on our long-term goal. So what it means long-term? Long-term, it means like that. I come from here, let's say from here, and then I start going up and then down, up and down, and then I have a crash, boom. Well, if I have a little crash here, I should never forget my long-term goal. It does not mean that I have failed. No. I mean, the short term is something that we can see. Yes, I want to feel better, and I don't want to experience psychological suffering anymore. Understand? But ignorance is hardwired. And ignorance is going to bring ups and downs, pleasures and pains. And then if I have a little crisis, we shall never let go of our long-term goal, which is self-knowledge. By then we understood that this avidya is something not that easy to be eradicated, and we need to keep our focus, keeping our concentration on our long-term goal, and keeping doing our work. Some people like the ability to concentrate for a length of time. A child, for example, can get fed up with anything in a few minutes, and an adult may be unable to watch the same TV program without channel popping. My father is so rajasic mentally, and he cannot really stop on one channel. He's all the time changing the channel. Vedanta requires a mind that's capable of concentrating upon a given topic for a reasonable amount of time. So take it what it take it, a few weeks, few months, few years, I know what's my goal, and I'm going to stick with it and keep my mind focused. The second component of this is the long-term focusing. In and through our various pursuits, we should not lose sight of the ultimate goal, which is self-knowledge and moksha. This should always be at the back of our minds. Okay, so I want to grow, I want to feel better, I want to have less rajas, I want to develop more sattva, more strengths, and so on. But my ultimate goal is self-knowledge. And we should never stop halfway with our pursuit of self-knowledge. The other day I was writing a satsang in which someone was saying something on those lines, and I told him there is nothing worse than a half-baked potato. Mark is English. He knows in England they eat a lot of potato. No? And if one time when I first came to the community of Osho Rajneesh, I got excited. I was cooking for the entire. That was in Germany, and then I was excited. I said, I'm gonna cook a German dish with baked potato. So I made a mistake, and I made the potato half baked, and I did not have experience. And everybody said, "Oh, it's so horrible, half baked potato," because it's really horrible. I went there and I tasted it. So the same way. So we want to stay focused long term until we have this job done. In and through our various pursuits, we should not lose sight of the ultimate goal, which is moksha. This should always be at the back of our mind. On a train journey, there may be many stops along the way, but we need to keep our ultimate destination in mind, lest we inadvertently get off at the wrong station. So we don't want to get off the wrong station. That's the whole thing here. But sometimes it is tempting. Sometimes it is tempting. You want me to stop here or another 5 minutes to finish this paragraph?
Let's finish the paragraph.
Karen, are you okay? In the same way, we may raise a family, we may start a business, earn money, build houses and travel abroad. None of these things is our ultimate goal in life. However, although we may need to do that as a householder, we need to do all these things, but we need to keep our ultimate goal, which is beyond all of those material goals, let's say. The only true success in life is to find complete fullness within our own self. The only true success, this is a very radical statement. No, Vedanta is exaggerating. There are so many other success in life, and self-knowledge is only one accomplishment. If I have hundreds of other accomplishments in life, when I sum them up together, it may be superior than this one accomplished, which is self-knowledge. So Vedanta is very radical and says, the only true success in life is self-knowledge, because it's the recognition of your inner, natural completeness or complete fullness as the self, as consciousness. According to the scriptures, such a person who finds fulfillment in themselves is a true success. And one who has not is to be pitied, for they have wasted this wonderful life. So again, this is a bit radical. So we, from the standpoint of Yanni, he sees people having material success, having assets and properties and power, prestige, and so on. And the Yanni is going to look and say, okay, so let's hope that all this success has brought them the maturity to understand that none of that is really helping him or her. You understand? So I never look at that as something absolutely wasteful, because nothing is really waste. Everything is just about bringing us closer to that understanding that no success in the world will ever succeed for us. This body has been borrowed from Ishvara to cross this ocean of samsara. Before the boat disintegrates, how nicely, we know that the body gets older, and then sooner or later it's going to be given back to the 5 elements and burned or eaten up by worms. So before this body disintegrates, before this boat disintegrates, we must reach the other side of this ocean. This goal through liberation should always be foremost in our minds. So we need to hold that focus. I'm Karen. This is my goal, the purpose of my life, and I want to get this done ASAP, as we say in the United States. But we've seen Ishwara's grace and timing. Ishwara is going to bring it about, but our effort has to have that sense of urgency or intensity of desire. These qualifications are acquired by living a life of Kama Yoga. These qualifications, they depend basically on the Kama Yoga spirit, which depends on the Kama Yoga knowledge, best presented by the Bhagavad Gita, as well as practicing Upasana meditation, Hatha Yoga, or whatever. Their attainment prepares the mind for moksha, enabling us to fully assimilate and integrate the teachings of Vedanta. So in order for us to fully assimilate and integrate the teachings of Vedanta, we need a body mind which was prepared by these other sadhanas. Okay, so we finished this one. Next week, if anybody has questions or contributions or commentaries, we can begin with that. Otherwise, we will go into the study of the three bodies and the three mental states. Okay, so we meet again next Monday, Shvara willing. Thank you again. I appreciate your presence. I have been appreciating very much your donations as well. They have been important to me. I don't know. I mean, I have mentioned that I have some trouble in the USA, and that is something that's going to cost me a lot of money. Not to say that I'm not receiving my income from that rental since a while. So I really appreciate the efforts of all of you in supporting these classes by offering something. And as we all know, whosoever has less economic condition than me should never pass any savings to me. I only accept savings from people that may have a better economic condition than mine, understand? Because that is the spirit here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my friends. See you next Monday. Ruthie, you said that you are not going to show up. You did show. Are you going to show up next Monday? Oh, she left. Okay. Bye-bye.
I won't be able to be here next Monday, so
Yeah,
I'll
I
see you in a
think
week.
Ruth as well. Ruth said that she would not come today and next Monday, but she showed up today. I was trying to ask her that.
Oh.
Anyhow.
Yeah.
See you next
Bye.
time. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Thanks, Lavender. Great
Thank you,
class.
Ma.
Bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.